what if every cigar was considered vintage? What if every cigar that we made was that perfect experience? And so that passion drove us to create Sans Pareil, a cigar without equal. The inspiration between Sans Pareil is 100% all about quality. Everything that we enjoy in our cigars, everything from the tasting notes to the burn, to the aroma, to the way the cigar lights, to the packaging, everything is focused on Sans Pareil cigars. And that's where we came up with our name, Sans Pareil, which is French for without equal, unparalleled. And we take every cigar that we make to that level, making sure that if it isn't something that inspires you to do something more, then it's not part of the portfolio. And that's what drives us every day.
All right, thank you for tuning into another episode of the Cigar Guys Podcast. Back in the studio with myself, Alex Gonzalez. Jared Burrows is here, and we've got a special treat for you today, something a little different than what we normally do, but obviously we have cigars and whiskey on here all the time, but this is going to be something that's more whiskey-focused, paired with the cigars, so I'm excited for this. I know Jared's excited as well, and we're going to go ahead and introduce our special guest because Bobby is here, and he's going to tell us a little bit about Blind Barrels. How we doing, Bobby?
I'm doing good, man. Thank you for having me on.
Absolutely.
What are you guys smoking there?
So I'm smoking a Sans Pareil Red. This is the Corojo wrapper with Dominican binder and filler. This is going to be a medium to full body. So I think in terms of some of the whiskeys you have here with the proofs that I checked out, I think it's going to be a good pairing. What about you, Jared?
I'm smoking the Besa Maduro. That is a Mexican San Andreas wrapper. And if you know me by watching this show at all, I love Maduros. So.
Yeah, so that's also going to be a good pairing for what we've got lined up today. And then at the end, we're going to reveal what exactly we are drinking. But Bobby, I'm going to talk to you real quick. Tell us a little bit about your background, how you got into Blind Barrels.
So my backdrop, I've actually been an educator and a filmmaker and just kind of a risk taker, been a part of different startups, some that have worked, some that haven't worked. And, during COVID, everything died. The test prep world died, films that I had in development died. And, you can only paint so many accent walls and install so many bidets. And my buddy was, doing blinds during COVID to connect us all while we were disconnected. And I just fell in love with it. I'd done it with wine before. I'd never done it with whiskey. And I was like, this feels like a business. He went, yeah, okay. And I'm like, nobody's ever done this before. And I quickly figured out why. The alcohol space is very restrictive in every capacity. Ever since Prohibition ended, there's a 3-tier system. The people that make it have to give it to a distributor, have to give it to a retailer before a customer can have it. There's shipping restrictions. I mean, how do we get other people's whiskey into these bottles with our branding and make it blind? And so I basically just kept calling alcohol beverage control attorneys and doing free hour-long consultations till I figured out a way to do it. I did 17 of those. Which is, by the way, this is a great live pro hack. If you ever need legal advice, you can usually keep just doing free hour-long consultations with different attorneys.
Wow.
And then, raise the money, spent all of 2021 just, putting everything in place from our packaging and our custom glass and forming relationships with these distilleries. And, we decided we didn't want to just put any kind of whiskey in the box. We wanted to put something special in there. So we only feature small American craft distillers. Most of the things in this lineup are not things that you can just go to a liquor store and get. They're oftentimes only distributed in their native state. So we're creating an avenue to get them into more states. We're in California, so we can, get it out to the other states that they're in. But, and it's all blind. So the cool thing about a blind is you discover what you like through what your taste buds are telling you, not the label, not the price, nothing else. A lot of times people come over to my house and be like, would you pour me a bourbon? I'm like, yeah, I'll pour you a bourbon. And then I'll pour them Middle West Pumpernickel Rye. Mm-hmm. And Middle West Pumpernickel Rye is a bourbon lover's rye. It doesn't taste like a normal spicy rye. It's actually just phenomenal. And they go, this is an amazing bourbon. I'm like, it's a rye. So stop saying that you only drink bourbon. I get people all the time that gifts are like, my husband only likes bourbon. And I'm like, no, he just doesn't like Bullet.
Right.
You got to differentiate. Like rye is actually maybe one of the more interesting whiskeys because it can be floral, it can be fruity. It doesn't have to be spicy. So there's all these really cool things. And yeah, it could be American single malt, new category. Probably the best thing about the membership, besides that we got a game so you can guess the age, the proof, the type of whiskey, and you'll actually get a score that tells you how accurate your palate is. So that's a lot of fun, and it's great educational component so people can really kind of tune in and learn more about what they're tasting. But people can buy a full bottle for less than if they were at the distillery. So not only are these bottles that they normally couldn't even get, but these are bottles that are priced. You'll never be able to find it at that price, even if you were at the distillery.
Oh, very nice. Yeah. And I will say too, I know you said we can guess the proof later, but I accidentally cheated because, I'm sure for legal reasons, you have to put it on the back here.
Yeah.
The alcohol percentage. So I do know each
You got good
percentage.
vision.
Yeah, that too. Yeah. Because obviously on this bottle, it's going to be much smaller. So real quick too, this is the packaging that it comes in. Great box, by the way. Very well designed, and it's a high quality box. It's got a magnet here. So you lift up the magnet, and you have the 4 bottles in here, A, B, C, and D. And it's about 1.7 ounces, I believe. We did the math there. 50 milliliter bottles. And then, of course, it comes with a little, a nice note here. But on the back of this note, we have the different tasting notes that you can kind of use to guide you through what exactly you are tasting. We do something similar with cigars because, for the longest time, like for the first 3 years of me smoking cigars, and similar with whiskey, it was hard for me to pick up on tasting notes. And I would hear people say, this tastes like cocoa, this tastes like espresso. And for me, I'm like, well, this just tastes good. I can't tell you off the top of my head what it tastes like, but having something like this, a little chart or a wheel, can give you kind of an idea of what you might be tasting. Because when you're reading the notes, it's like, oh, okay, yeah, I think I get wood, maybe spice. And spice is one of the easier ones, but it's a really great concept here. And honestly, I just can't wait to get into it. So I think that's what we're going to start doing as we obviously discuss more here with Bobby.
So Bobby, the box you sent us, do you know what all these are already? Or is it that random? So you don't know them?
So they're drops. So if you're a member, like for instance, I just had a whole crew left. They're in here for 8 days, just packaging, getting ready for our March lineup that ships out Monday. So they're drops. So everybody that's a member, people that have friends, brothers, sisters, mothers, fathers, whatever, everyone gets the same kit at the same time. So I think you got the Inception release?
Yeah, the February.
Yeah, so the Inception release is the first time. So this was September of last year.
Sorry, yeah.
Yeah, so the September release is been member recommendations. So all year long, members are giving us recommendations. We reach out to distilleries; they send us samples. We don't choose brands; we choose whiskeys. So we blind everything when we're trying it. But yeah, obviously, I know what all these are. I'd say the downside of what I do is I don't get to do blinds anymore,
Right.
Because I know what everything is. But actually, we have a radio program. We have a partnership with a big radio DJ in Southern California, and we do a radio program with them once a month, and once a week, and it's called 4 Whiskeys. So I get to do 4 blinds once a week now, which is kind of cool.
Oh, that's great. But yeah, so we're going to go ahead and get our initial impressions here on bottle A, and then we're going to discuss a little more about whiskey. I would say I'm definitely more of a cigar expert than a whiskey expert, so we'll definitely rely on you to help us out when it comes to the finer details. Cheers.
Cheers. The first smell kind of like tingles your nose a little bit there.
Yeah, it would be really interesting with a cigar for sure. Is my guess.
So right off the bat, bottle A, definitely on the sweeter side.
Yeah.
Caramel, toffee is what I'm tasting.
I could taste that, but the smell was spicy to me, which is weird. It made my nose tingle.
A little bit. I can see that.
Yeah, tasty notes are weird, or even aroma, because the way that your brain processes the chemical versus somebody else, like somebody might say cherry and another person might say almond. Technically, their brain is interpreting the same chemical in a different way.
Gotcha.
But yeah, this one, like I get cherry cola like notes when I'm doing it, which
in the aftertaste, I can see
that. What
in the aftertaste? Maybe cherry cola.
Yeah, well, and sometimes I can just say that, and then you can smell it or taste it just because I said it.
Bias.
We call that inception. That's a whiskey inception.
Whiskey inception.
Yeah, same thing with cigars. I mean, it's all super subjective, and I know it's based on essentially like your memories and what you've experienced personally. So obviously, if I eat more cherries, and Jared, has eaten more blueberries before, we might say, oh, this tastes like cherry. He might pick up more blueberry, something like you said, or it's toffee or versus cherry. So it's subjective in
I
that
get memories
manner.
too.
But I know that, like, kind of like you said, you can figure out that it's the same compound, so to say. So you know what is kind of causing that flavor, whether it's cherry or whether it's almond for some people.
Right. I mean, like for me, I remember I was tasting something. I was like, this reminds me of when I got to second base with that girl in 8th grade. And my buddy's like, did you go to an ice cream place? And I went, yeah. He goes, waffle cone. That's what you're getting. I'm like, it was waffle cone. But I usually get little memories tied to that too. So I'm not the best at picking out notes. I can usually pick out what type of whiskey it is, and I'm really good at proof. But
Gotcha.
proof can be misleading too.
Are these all like bourbons, or all these, like ryes or scotches, or?
Well, they're all American. So technically, the 4 main grains that you're looking at are corn. So in order to be bourbon, it has to be A, American, B, aged in new white oak charred barrels, and C, 51% corn. Rye has to be 51% rye. A wheat whiskey, which you don't see a lot of. You see a lot of wheated bourbons, like Pappy Van Winkle and Weller's and things like that, which means that it's bourbon, but a good portion of the rest of the mash bill, the grains that make it up, are wheat. You don't see a lot of dominant wheat whiskeys just because they're really difficult to distill. So the ones that are usually doing a really good job of it. And then you have single malt. So single malt is basically Scotch. It's not from Scotland, so you can't call it Scotch. And so it's 51% or more barley. And single malt, basically means it's aged in, it's made in a single season by a single distiller. I used to be like, what about a triple malt? So those are terms. Now, one of these, actually isn't anything like that at all. One of these is not one of those 4 grains, which is interesting.
Gotcha. And I will say too, real quick, because I cheated and I saw that this first bottle is 50%. It's very smooth. I would say if I had not known and tried this, I'd probably be thinking it was 40, 45. For me, once I get 50 plus, then I expect more of like the spice and the heat to come out of it.
Right.
But this is a very smooth drink in terms of being, a 50%, 100 proof, I should say. And in terms of pairing it with this cigar, since it's on the sweeter side, I would say that it brings out more of the spice on this cigar. So it's kind of getting rid of any of the sweetness I might have had before, and I'm tasting more of those savory notes on the cigar.
Well, I have Maduro, so I don't have any sweetness at all anyways. So
you should have a little bit, but
from the alcohol, yeah.
Well, yeah. In terms of the cigar, it's very subtle sweetness. So if anything, yeah, it's probably going to be none of that now. But
You're making a great point, though. It's like a lot of times when people have a sweet whiskey, they think they need to pair it with sweets. And the reality is you want to go with the opposites in order to pull out the flavors more. So like the fact that you're saying that contrast is really, and before we started this, one of the things we mentioned before we went live on the air was that a lot of times the whiskey's enhancing the cigar and the cigar's not enhancing the whiskey. The cigar can definitely mute some of the flavors that you're getting in the whiskey.
Yeah, for sure. And I know too, when I first started, smoking cigars and drinking whiskey, I thought that when you're pairing, you want it to be something that's basically very similar to each other. So kind of like you said, in your case, if you have a sweet bourbon or a sweeter whiskey, you want to have sweets with it. But the better experience, and I can attest to this, is having the opposite. So in terms of pairing cigars and whiskey, the best thing you want to do in terms of similarity is maybe like body or, proof. So having like a really strong cigar with a higher proof bourbon would be good, but you want to kind of contrast in terms of flavor. So like, for example, this cigar is going to be more on the savory side, more spice and stuff. And then this first whiskey here is very sweet. So this would be a great pairing in my mind because too, the proof is kind of up there. The cigar is not full strength, but it's getting up there. So in terms of this pairing right here, bottle A and, a mild, or I should say a medium to full body cigar, is definitely the way to go.
Awesome. Yeah, I mean, we did a partnership with Luxury Cigar, and they paired a cigar with each of the samples. We did that for our Father's Day kit about, I think, 2 years ago, maybe
great.
3 years ago. and it was great. But I'm also like I like a cigar, but I'm not an everyday cigar smoker, and mainly because I got to make love to my wife, and you know, and she used to smoke cigarettes, so I think like the cigar thing just would, I don't know, make her want to have a cigarette or something. I don't know.
Gotcha. Yeah.
But I mean, we did partnership with Jeremy Sears, and I thought, you know, people that smoke like 1 or 2 or 3 cigars a day, I'm like, wow, that's a lot. There's dudes that are smoking like 15, 20 cigars a day. I'm
Absolutely.
like,
Jared
it's like a
Jared
heroin.
aspires to be that kind of person.
I do. I mean, I really like the flavor of cigars, but I've never done 15 in one day. I think the max I've ever done is like 8.
We do know someone personally that on an average day will smoke 15 to 18 cigars. Like
That's crazy.
no bullshit. And he works in the industry and he works at a factory, so it's very easy for him to do. So he's just essentially smoking all day for free. But yeah, people like that do exist. It's not an exaggeration. People do smoke literally like a cigar every hour that they're awake, which me personally, crazy. I smoke, 1 to 2 cigars a day, and that's because I am in the industry. And if I do an event, like an all day event, that's when it gets up there to like 5 or 6. Because you got to be smoking and talking to people and stuff like that. But yeah,
Do you ever feel like your tolerance gets jacked up in terms of just like, like for me, that second cigar is when I start to kind of like going, oh man, I'm not used to having this much tobacco, right? Or like Zins, like my buddy came back from Sweden, he had like 24 milligrams Zins, right? Shoot you to the moon, basically, right? Like you can't get anything near that over here. And yeah, my buddy who does like 8s and 12s, like he took one of those and he was like, he wasn't getting sick or anything, but he was like basically was like high as fuck from it,
I just think it's a different experience because you're putting the Zin like under your lip, right? You're directly absorbing the nicotine. Where with cigars, you probably felt a little dizzy that one time because you probably inhaled a little bit, or maybe it's a really strong cigar. Everyone's a little different.
Yeah, I will say, if I don't smoke cigars for a long time, like for example, when I went on my honeymoon, I had 1 cigar over the course of 3 weeks versus not having 1 or 2 a day. So when I came back, I'd have 1 cigar, I feel great. If I had a second cigar, I'd be like, okay, I kind of feel like the buzz, so to say. But I will say this too, since you brought up Zins, I'm a cigar smoker. I'm very much used to the nicotine of cigars. And I had a buddy give me a Zin one time, and this was like a 6 milligram Zin, and that I could feel within like 2 minutes. So it's like Jared said, it's a completely different experience because I think that's going like straight to the source.
Yeah.
Whereas cigars, there's a lot of nicotine in cigars, but since you're not inhaling it, you're not absorbing as much nicotine. So it's very much you're enjoying that flavor and that experience.
Totally. Well, why don't I tell you guys what the first one is? And get the reveal.
Okay.
So this is actually a really cool bottle. I always wonder if people bought a ton of this because it tastes really good, or if it's just maybe the coolest bottle ever. So this is Koval, and I actually have a bottle of it right here.
We're gonna see it in person. This is easier too than doing the whole QR code. Now we have the actual, representative here telling us.
You can see just how cool that bottle. This is actually the single malt version of them, but this is a millet grain. What you're drinking is a millet grain. It's 100% millet. Which is more of like a kind of a cattle grain. That it's an interesting. I mean, this is what people in craft are doing. They're instead of just sticking to corn and rye, they're trying really weird, unique, interesting things. So Koval, they're out of Chicago. They're I think a kosher whiskey brand. I don't know all the details of what that entails, but
it's better for you, is what I understand.
So
one of the more beautiful bottles.
So it's the only one that isn't rye, barley, or corn, right?
Yeah, millet's not any of the 4. Yeah, millet's something that's totally different.
Because you said there'd be like one special bottle we're gonna have. So
yeah, no, this is a great one to share, and it's allocated, so it's not one that you can just go get. I think if you find this, it's like $110, and our members get it for I think they get it for $80.
That's good.
So it's a killer price.
Well, I think that's great too that you offer it on your website as well. So if you like one of these bottles, you don't have to go far. You just say, okay, well, Here you go. Send me one directly. That's great. And 2 for the discount.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, most people come for the blind, they come for the experience, but then they stay because we're giving them access to killer things. We're actually getting ready to start a thing called Bobby's Stash. So I don't know if you know about High West out of Park City, Utah.
Oh yeah, I like High West.
Yeah, so we got a bunch of High West, and you can actually see over my shoulder there. There's a bunch of Midwinter Nights Dram over there,
Oh, that's so good.
and
We were just drinking High West the other, actually like about 5 days ago. But Midwinter's Night Dram, I try to get it every year it comes out, just because it's
Yeah.
so good.
Oh yeah, it's finished in port casks, and they're not always like everything's stellar. It's always at least really good. And so I got a bunch of that. I got a bunch of their Burr Rye that came out also in allocated bottle. So our members are going to be able to go to Bobby Stash. It's going to be a separate bottle shop of just really cool allocated stuff. So like normally Midwinter Night's Dram, you're paying somewhere between 170, 200. I think our members are going to get it for 130.
Wow, that's awesome. So I guess
that's
our favorite bottles here, or in Jared's case, you might like all of them.
Sounds correct.
We could just go straight right here to Blind Barrels and get all these bottles, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we're not going to carry, people are like, you have Pappy, or somebody just messaged me like, can you get King of Kentucky? I'm like, I can't get King of Kentucky. That's like one of the more impossible bottles to get. I actually got a bottle of Pappy 23 this year at Costco.
Oh wow,
which was crazy. Yeah, one of my buddies is dating the girl at the hearing aid place, and she like saw them bring it in. So it was before he was even in the system. Like I showed up to buy it, and even though it wasn't in the system, but because it was there and I asked for it, they had to sell it to me, and it was $400. But that's that's a $3,500, $5,000 bottle.
Wow.
So in terms of the tastings, for example, like if I get next quarter's shipment, are all of the whiskeys that you send available for purchase on your website? Okay, yeah. So there's not going to be anything that I get where I'm like, oh, I like this, and then I can't end up buying it from you guys. I can just go to you.
The only time is sometimes we do special releases like barrel picks, and like Still Austin. We have too many members, so we can't really pick a barrel. But what we can do is we can blend multiple barrels together. In fact, our current lineup right now, there's one bottle that there's only going to be 150 bottles of it. And what's going to happen is there's going to be some people that are going to wait to do the lineup like a month, and then they're going to go to buy a bottle, and it's not going to be there, and they're going to be really pissed at me.
Yeah, and I imagine too, like you said earlier, you have some people that just do the tastings, but then you have some people that will buy the bottles too. So obviously you're not going to have, like, let's say 1,000 members, you're not going to have 1,000 bottles available because it doesn't make sense. You're not going to have 1,000 people order the actual bottle.
Yeah, totally. Exactly. We're not going to have all of that happening. So some people, a lot of times people get gifted a thing. They're not necessarily buying bottles. Or maybe they're not even aware that that's one of the cool things. I was talking to my cousin's kid, and she's a member, and she never even looks at the reveal. I'm like, what are you doing?
She just likes to enjoy some good whiskey.
Yeah, she's like, no, I like to drink awesome whiskey, and I love it for that.
I think we'd get along very well.
Yeah. Yeah, she doesn't care. She's like, I don't really need to know. I'm like, okay.
What Jared's trying to say is she married or not?
Oh, she is.
I meant good whiskey. She likes good whiskey.
Is Jared single?
Jared's single.
Ready to mingle? You got to find a girl that's going to put up with your 5 cigar habit, though.
Exactly.
I mean, does your house like have a strong? I mean, do you smoke in the house, or you always?
No, never. Not the house.
Not in the house.
Not this house. When we get a second house, when we buy other properties,
true.
Then we can do that.
Well, you get the pool house. You get the cabana pool house.
Exactly.
Right. You build like an ADU out there, and then you just make that the smoking area.
Exactly.
I mean, I think like cigarette smoke. Like if you go into Vegas, cigarette smoke. But if I go in a room where people are smoking cigars, I think it's awesome.
Yeah.
Like or you guys ever do the pipe tobacco?
Oh yeah, we've done it, I think twice on this show so far.
Yeah. We every time we try to get into pipe tobacco, we kind of forget about it because it's so easy to just cut and light a cigar. Pipe tobacco, it takes a little more time. But I will say, honestly, experiencing pipe tobacco is completely different from cigars. I mean, it's a whole nother set of flavors, and it's a cooler smoke. So I got to kind of like force myself to get in the habit more of like doing it once a week or something, because it's a
Yeah,
whole
that
nother
smell.
flavor palette.
Yeah, my dad, when I was like, I don't know, 2 or 3, he bought this really expensive pipe, and I like threw it out the window, and then he just never got another one.
Man.
So for all I know, saved his life.
So I poured bottle B, and Jared, you're already cheating. I saw you take a sip. I saw you take a sneaky.
I don't think I'm cheating. I was tasting.
So let's go to I keep saying bottle B now. And this one I know is I think it was 43 or 45. Less than the first
I'm guessing it's a rye.
one. Okay.
Yeah, this proof I think was 92, if I'm remembering.
Much spicier.
Yeah, not as sweet.
Yeah, much spicier.
More spice.
I like the spice.
But it's still smooth.
Going down, yes.
Yeah, I think
Going in, it's spicy.
And having on this show, we've had a few like different whiskey reps, and a lot of the stuff that they bring on, I love, because like the stuff we're drinking now, regardless of the proof, how high it is, it's so smooth. And this is both of these first ones are examples of, okay, the proof might be a little higher for most people, but it's smoother than you would expect. And I think a lot of more boutique companies are focusing on, we can make a higher proof bourbon or whiskey, but we're not going to have it be too much heat or too much spice. We want it to be a smooth and enjoyable experience.
Yeah, totally. There's a balance to that. I mean, we've had as high as 151 proof in a lineup before.
Hmm.
And in the whiskey world, if you're above 140 or more, it's called hazmat. And yeah, I mean, you can light it on fire for sure. And sometimes you get one that's hot, so in the high proof, we call it hot. And sometimes it's high proof and it doesn't taste hot. And that's when it's really dangerous, because you could be drinking something that's that 151 proof. It was a 26 year from Cat's Eye. And it was a $250 bottle. I think I remember we got it for $130. And yeah, that bottle was just so easy to drink that it was just insane for being that proof.
Yeah, I mean, I had one time at one of the lounges we go to, they had a deal on, I believe it was like a Jack Daniel's single barrel or something, some sort of like special barrel pick, and it was 69%. And granted, it is Jack Daniel's, so we're not expecting too much here. But that was
their
so
single barrels
hot.
are actually pretty bomb.
I will say, it was a good bottle, but it was so hot, I couldn't drink it neat. I had to drink it in an old fashioned just because of how hot it was.
Yeah. So sometimes but I think Jack Daniels, it's funny, they've really kind of flipped. They've taken a lot of pages from the craft playbook where they're doing all sorts of interesting things now. Now they got the blackberry flavored one. They're, they're not just doing their old number 7. And yeah, it's funny. Jack Daniels is one of the few whiskeys that I just don't like to drink a lot of. Like,
same here.
Because I just did it so much in my 20s, that Jack and Coke, and that sugar was just a hangover recipe.
Exactly. But yeah, to your point, I know that there's been a few people on the show that have talked about Jack Daniels and some of the newer stuff they're coming out with that's better. That's more for the connoisseur, so to say, not the 20-year-old that's trying to get drunk.
They have a 10-year, a 12-year, a 14-year. I think they're coming out with 16, and those are really highly sought after. I've got, I think, a 12 and a 10 in the back room over there. I haven't tried it yet, but my buddy's done all 3, the 10, the 12, and the 14, and he's like, it's off the charts good. And you think, because it's Jack Daniels, you're like, oh, this isn't the quality. I mean, some people go and they get the Sinatra, and that's like the expensive Jack Daniels that they had before. But that to me very much tastes like traditional Jack Daniels, which I don't like. But the single barrels and the stuff that they're doing, I like a lot.
Just like with cigars, though, I don't like any flavored whiskeys at all. So I don't like the Jack Honey or what do you say, blueberry flavor too?
I think blackberry.
Yeah, blackberry. I haven't had it yet. Yeah, my brother-in-law, that's all he drinks. So I always have one at my house. I have the Jim Beam Honey out because I know he'll pour that and not. Like one time I came home and I went and took a shower and my sister and her husband showed up and I come out and he's got. So I have one rule. Like, you want to put ice with whiskey? Dope. You want to mix it with something? I don't care. Do whatever you want. But don't pour it over a bunch of crushed ice.
Yeah.
Right? Like don't put good whiskey over a bunch of crushed ice. and he had a tumbler filled to the top with crushed ice, and the rest of it was whiskey, and he was drinking it. And I pulled my wife aside. I'm like, "What did you pour him?" She's like, "I don't know. He poured something himself." And he didn't just pour something. He opened up my Widow Jane 15-year. He
Ooh.
didn't even fucking open. First of all, there was a bunch of things that were open that I wouldn't want to pour either.
Without
But-
asking? Insane.
Yeah, opening up. That's like, if you go and you just open up this. For all you know, it's a fucking Love Feet 1981 or some shit, right? Like it's some $20,000 bottle for all you know. And so now I know he likes the Jim Beam honey, so I just have it there,
Right.
and then he just loves it and he goes for it. And I mean, we've had a flavored whiskey in the lineup, Vermont number 14 from Vermont Distilling, and it's a 5% maple infusion with 5% Vermont maple syrup. And so it's technically a flavored whiskey, but it's so subtle. And the reality is, you put sugar in anything, then it's going to be people are going to like it in a blind.
Yeah. Yeah, I will say too, similar to, you having the decoy bottle out, we have the decoy humidor. So we have, when people come over, we have a humidor that's got like, good cigars, but not our special stuff. You have the special stuff hidden away.
Yeah.
So you don't have, that guy that doesn't really smoke cigars or doesn't really drink whiskey. He shows up and he's like, "Oh, I want something." He's like, "Yeah, here you go. Here's the humidor I got for you." And you got some good $10 cigars in there or whatever, but you're not putting in the $30, $40 cigars.
It's not a bunch of Swisher Sweets, though. Some Black and Milds.
Well, yeah, don't insult me.
Yeah, I mean, there's some, $7 cigars, like, what was I having? It was a Monte. It wasn't a Monte Cristo. It's a white label. It was a Connecticut wrapper.
Macanudo, maybe.
Yeah, it might have been that. And, for a $7 cigar, I'm like, yeah, that's bomb.
Yeah.
Super mellow, super easy. My dad's been getting into the Padrones lately.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
So, and he got he had the vintage one, but then he got another one that's like bigger and crazier. And I can always tell by the ash if it's like a really good cigar.
Yeah.
But I'd say the Opus X is the best one that I've had in the last couple of years. God's Breath, and then the other one, just I can tell you the ash will just stay on there for like 4 inches.
Yeah, the quality of that construction. A lot of cigars, a lot of great brands that have that aspect to them. Where, like you said, someone's sitting there at the lounge and they got 2 or 3 inches of ash on there. It's like, okay, that cigar is well constructed for sure. You can't tell flavor, but he's enjoying it for sure if he's got an ash that big. And then real quick too, in terms of the pairing now, because this is obviously a different whiskey, I would say that it actually made the cigar flavor a little more subtle. Like it's a smoother smoking experience. So I still get some spice, but it's kind of changed the flavor in a sense of like, if you don't like stronger cigars, you take a couple sips of this and smoke this cigar and it's going to be enjoyable for you still.
Yeah, I agree with you with my Maduro. It's kind of mellowed out a little bit with this pairing. So it's like the Maduro is not nearly as strong.
Mm-hmm.
I'm still guessing this is a rye though.
Okay.
I had rye last night, so.
So you got like a bias from last night.
Yeah.
Or experience, we should say.
Yeah, I'd say that with the first one, Bottle A, I don't think I've ever had a millet whiskey before.
As far as I know.
Not yet. As far as I know, I don't know.
Yeah, I had never until it was in the lineup either. So it's not.
Well, you put it
not
there.
Common. I've never seen it.
It was so good. He said, "This got to be in the lineup."
It's got to be in the lineup.
And this one it is also one that's left of center. So this one is from a brand called J. Rieger. It's 92 proof. It's not technically a bourbon, although it's 75% corn.
Oh, I messed up.
It's a new thing called Kansas City style.
Okay.
And what they do is, what some people do with their whiskey is they finish it in barrels, right? They'll finish it in a port cask, like the Midwinter Night's Dram, or a rum cask, or a sherry cask, or there's all sorts of different types of casks that they have out there. French oak, Mizunara, right? There's some that can really affect the flavor, like so much so that you can't blend it with anything else. And this one it's not finished in a sherry cask, but they actually throw sherry into the whiskey.
Huh.
And it's called Kansas City style.
Interesting.
And and this is a bottle, I think if you're at the distillery, it's $50. I think we sell it for $45. It's one that's not easy to find either. But it's the first time we ever had a bottle in our lineup that we sold for less than $50.
Wow.
It's really good though, so I can see why you picked it. It's really flavorful.
Yeah. No, that's enjoyable. And you know, a little bit of a lower proof. It's smooth, easy to drink.
And you said it's technically not a bourbon, but it's mostly corn. What would you say?
Yeah, I mean it's not bourbon because of the sherry gets thrown into it. So
Okay.
in order to be certain categories, so it's greater than 4 years, but it's blended with 15-year-old sherry. So there's 15-year-old sherry that's thrown into it. It's 75% bourbon, 18% light corn whiskey, 5% rye, and then less than 2% of that 15-year-old sherry. So they're just splashing that in. So 2% of this is sherry. And yeah, it's called Kansas City style.
Interesting.
And so
I like it.
not something you'll see very often. Well, even like Jack Daniels said, Tennessee, if you look at Jack Daniels, by all accounts, Jack Daniels is a bourbon in terms of its mash bill, the way it's distilled, all the things. I did the ABC. There's actually a D, E, F, all the way to like H or something. In terms of things like barrel entry proof and and all these different things that you have to fit in order to be called a bourbon, and it does all those things, but it is filtered with maple charcoal.
Interesting.
And that is Tennessee, and so they fought really hard to get a different category called Tennessee whiskey.
I will say too, what I like about the more boutique or the newer brands that are making whiskeys is they are obviously trying to do something new and something different. Whereas for a long time you have like for example, you have your bourbons, you have your Tennessee whiskeys, you have all these different categories. Similar with cigars, but now these newer companies are saying, okay, how do we make this different? And I think that for both industries, that's how newer companies can stand out.
Oh yeah, and doing something unique and different. So our rules, it has to be American, has to be craft. Now, if they're not making their own whiskey, ideally they're making their own whiskey. But if they're sourcing, which is what a lot of young brands do,
Right.
because you can't just make whiskey and then sell it because it needs time in a barrel, right? It needs to age, and if you sell it too early, it's a little too grain forward, and people don't like that. It's too young. Generally you want whiskey to kind of be in that 4 years or more range. But in Texas, 4 years is like 8 years because of that maturation rate out there. So it's a
Gotcha.
little bit different in terms of where it's aged. And there's so many things that go into the flavor, from the yeast strain, right, to the way it's distilled. Obviously, the mash bill. There's even where it's aged and what kind of barrels are used. So somebody sourcing, you have to do something to it. So you either have to finish it in a barrel or you got to be blending it.
Gotcha.
So like Dark Arch is a great example. Widow Jane I mentioned earlier, Nulu. These are all companies. Penelope, they source their whiskey, but they're really good at blending. And so you have to do something to it. So if someone just sources whiskey and puts a label on it, and there's plenty of brands that reach out to us for that. It's not that the whiskey's bad because they're usually sourcing good whiskey. It's just that the story's not there.
Right.
It's not really authentic.
Well, I will say too, a lot of brands that we have had on the show, the one pattern I've seen, and it might just be coincidence, is a lot of brands are working with Bardstown. Houghton Young is one of them. And Bardstown, I guess, has become so big that they're working with a lot of these smaller brands to source the whiskey to them, essentially.
Right. Oh yeah, no, and they're working with them, and look, Midwest Grain Products, so MGP. So if you ever see a bottle and it's got Indiana on it, it's probably MGP. So Midwest Grain Product was a company out of Kansas that bought the Seagram's build in Frankfort, Lawrenceburg, Indiana. And basically in the 90s, people weren't buying whiskey. It was not it was maybe one of the least popular spirits out there. And in fact, that's when Julian Van Winkle III went and bought the Pappy line back from Diageo. So one of Diageo's biggest mistakes was getting rid of the Pappy Van Winkle line literally right as whiskey started to climb. And so what would happen is people would make whiskey, they would try to meet it for the demand that existed, but there was more demand the next year and they didn't have enough whiskey, and they were constantly in this state of trying to get enough demand. And now we've kind of spilled over and the boom is over and there's a lot of barrels out there, but the demand is still there. It's just not climbing the way that it was. So people would source whiskey. So MGP, Midwest Grain Product, is where many people source their whiskey from. I mentioned Midwest earlier. from in Columbus, Ohio. A lot of people source from them. Southern Distilling, which makes Southern Star out of Statesville, North Carolina. I mean, their wheated bourbon, I think, is one of the best out there, period. Like, I always have a bottle of that cask strength Paragon, and they quietly source for about 120 brands, and they're a massive operation.
Wow. Yeah, that is a big operation for sure. So I poured just now the C, the third whiskey. Cheers, Jared.
I waited for you this time.
I know. I'm very
promise.
proud of you. It's so good. I don't blame Jared for not.
Now, are you
winning.
guys getting a rinse on the glass at all, or you're just going right into the next
I'm
one?
going to be honest with you. No, we're not rinsing.
I mean, it doesn't matter, but yeah, that millet will linger for sure. You know, there's certain types of whiskeys that will leave a trace into the next one.
I thought about bringing 4 glasses each, and then I was like, no, it's okay.
Sometimes you can put a little water in there, but
Yeah.
to each their own. I mean, some people keep a little bit and they like to blend it, and just see if they come up with a really cool blend from the 4.
Yeah.
Let me ask this: will be a millet one, a corn one we already had. Are we gonna have like a rye one? And
We try to mix it up in the mash bill. We've had one that was, we had a lineup that was 3 bourbons, and then it was a Canadian rye, that the 151 proof. It was all barrel picks, and it was all just bangers. So I don't know if we've ever done that's all bourbon, but it doesn't matter if it's bourbon or if it's rye. What we're looking for is an experience. We don't want a bunch of brown sugar, caramel, vanilla bourbons in a row, because it's not interesting enough. So as long as the experience itself is different enough, that's really all we're looking for.
And I will say for bottle C, first impressions is this is going back to the sweeter side. Would you agree?
Hold on, I'm gonna keep drinking it.
And this one's going to go back to 50%, 100 proof.
By smell, I would say the spice has gone down.
Definitely on the sweeter side. Almost as sweet as the A bottle.
Almost.
It's like, we're kind of going back towards that. Smooth. Probably, in my opinion, and granted, we've had, 2 already, but it feels like the smoothest one. Less heat.
I love the smell,
I think
though.
that this one is the best nose. I mean,
Yep.
of all the whiskeys that have ever been in our lineup, this is like within the top 3 for me.
Clears your sinus
in
stuff
terms
for
of
sure.
noses.
Yeah, very, very, it's a muted nose. Like, it's pleasant. There's really no heat on the nose there, at least for me.
No heat, but it clears your sinus stuff for sure. Doesn't burn, but it's super smooth. What's the proof on this one?
This is a 100 proof.
Sounds about right.
I know we're
Yeah,
in for a treat with the last one.
You know what?
I said I know we're in for a treat with the last one. That goes up to I think it's 120 proof.
Yeah. So you got good vision. Yeah, I mean, we put all that. You got to put on there like pregnant women can't have it. You have to put the state that it's distilled in, and you have to put the ABV. So there's certain things that have to be on the label to get accepted by the Trade Tax Bureau.
Again, new whiskey, same cigar, but the cigar tastes a little different. Now I'm picking up more saltiness on the cigar. And I think, part of that might have to do with the sweetness. So now it's going to bring out more of that contrast in the cigar here. What do you think?
I thought the flavor of my cigar has come back some.
Okay.
But remember, I'm also smoking Maduro.
Yeah, but so different cigars here, but you're kind of maybe going back to the beginning.
Yeah. So which one was yours again?
This is a Corojo.
Okay.
So, it's going to be, this blend particularly is going to be medium to full. But yeah, so
Yeah.
going from spice on the last pick to now more saltiness. So I'm not getting spice on the cigar as much. I'm getting more of a salty, savory flavor. So it's crazy. I'm basically, smoking so far 3 different cigars.
It's actually a pretty fun experience. So you're saying it's now salty because of the whiskey?
This is the most clear flavor change so far. Taking a few sips of this whiskey and then smoking this cigar, very, very different. in my opinion.
Bobby, I wish you were drinking with us so bad, you know.
No, I know. Well, it's like you know, if you have a buddy that's a porn star, are you just having sex all day? And it's like, oh, I got a whiskey company. Are you just drinking whiskey all day? And I was like, I got to run a company too, you know.
Do you have a buddy that's a porn star
Well,
in
keep
California?
in mind too. Well, we'll get into that in a minute. But keep in mind, he's in California right now, so he's also 3 hours behind. So you know, we'll give him some time. It's evening. It's almost 7 o'clock here, so we're ready to go.
So that sounds like gloss over
I
that
can
question.
definitely have a pour if you guys want to wait for me to get one.
Absolutely.
You know, because it's I was stuck on this damn call for so long that I was just trying to fly.
So it
I was trying
sounds
not
like
to
you
be
need
rude to
one.
You guys would be late.
Exactly.
You know?
Sounds like you need one. Got that call.
I need one. You're right. So I'll be back.
Go
You
ahead.
guys talk so much yourself.
Go ahead.
Sounds good.
No, but in all seriousness,
I wonder what he's going to get. One of ours or
it's gonna
something
be
he
a
has.
surprise. No, in all seriousness, like this was the most drastic change in terms of flavor. Good whiskey. The cigar is still enjoyable, but it's like it's a totally different cigar.
My major bias here is I love all whiskey, but except flavored whiskey. But
I try to be more critical because Jared rates every cigar 10 out of 10. He rates every whiskey 10 out of 10.
I really don't.
I'm just kidding.
I'm just saying the flavors come back on my Maduro. But the salty thing, I'm trying to find it.
I know, but these are different cigars too. So
Yeah.
your experience and my experience is going to be very different. This is a Corojo wrapper, so the flavors are definitely going to be different. As far as saltiness on a Maduro, a Mexican San Andreas, for example,
Really can't. Yeah.
no, it's generally for most people, you're not going to get that. This is a good pour. So far, I know we're not done, but what do you think is your favorite, A, B, or C?
Well, the first one is something I've never tasted before. That millet. I've definitely had that again. I've never had millet, I guess, whiskey before.
We know where to get it.
We do. Thank you. The second one had that spice, and I love spice. I like strong cigars. I like spicy cigars, so I kind of like that too. But so far, I think number 3 is probably or bottle C is the best one.
Really?
But we haven't had D yet,
Yeah.
so we have to rank them at the end.
Well, you're a Scotch guy, so I'm curious to see your thoughts on the highest proof bottle that we have.
It will probably be the best.
You think so? Okay.
It'll probably be hotter.
Yeah, probably.
and-
We'll find out.
Yeah.
Bobby's back. What do you got, Bobby?
I went and poured I was talking about Middle West Pumping a Garage, so I got some Middle West Pumping a Garage.
There you go.
The cast strength wheat, and this is in one of our lineups, and this is a bottle that used to be over $100 that I think we sell it for $60.
Dang.
Middle West, they're phenomenal. This got named number 14 whiskey in the year of the year for 2025, and it's a phenomenal pour. People loved it. People bought a bunch of it, and I don't blame them. It's just something that we'll always have in stock. We'll always be ready to rock with. And it's funny, you guys are talking about your favorites, and if I have 20 people in a room, there will be 3 that say A is their favorite at least, and same will be true for B, C, and D. And there'll be someone in the room that hates A.
Really?
And there'll be somebody in the room that hates B. And we do these lineups, so we shoot a tasting video that goes along with it, and we do live tastings with our members twice every quarter. And what's really interesting is when I go through the lineup in those 2 different live tastings, my favorite's in a different order each time. It's rarely ever exactly the same. And it could be, you had some Toshido peppers earlier in the day. Like what you ate that day can really affect the way that your palate is reacting to whatever's in your mouth. I mean, I'm sure that's true for cigars too.
Absolutely. No, absolutely. I mean, if you have a spicy meal and then you smoke a cigar, a lot of times the cigar will, be very muted because you just got that leftover spice in your mouth. So if you smoke a stronger cigar that's got more spice, you're going to be like, it's not the same. And honestly, same thing with wine. I know we touched on wine a little bit earlier. For me, wine is the one drink or one pairing that completely throws off what the cigar actually tastes like. Whiskey, you get similar, like you're not going too far, but if you have a glass of wine and a cigar, it's a completely different experience. And sometimes too, like when the guys and I were first getting into cigars, we drink wine occasionally. And there was a specific cigar we had with wine, and we'd be like, "Oh yeah, the cigar's really good." we had the cigar without the wine, and we were like, "Oh, this is not the same." And it was so drastic. Like we were like, "Oh, we can't smoke the cigar without wine."
Yeah.
From my
You have to.
perspective, when it comes to cigars, your best bet's to pair, cigars with either like a coffee. I mainly drink espressos, black, of course, or just a whiskey. Nothing too strong. And those pairings right there keep the flavor of the whiskey or your drink itself and the cigar itself. So it's the best pairing you possibly have.
Yeah, tobacco and coffee are just super buddies.
Oh,
you
yeah.
know?
Super buddies.
So we just finished the C, and I got a little bottle of water here. 1, to drink and hydrate, but 2,
Okay, we'll
Get
do
a
for
it.
this
little
last
rinse on
one.
there.
This last one, we'll
Get
do a little rinse.
get
The
a
expert
little
told
bit
us
of
to
a
do it.
rinse. And yeah, I mean, what you can also do if you want to cleanse your palate. So coffee grounds are good, but a common tactic is you smell yourself. And if you
Really?
smell yourself, yeah, it's a palate cleanser. So you kind of smell your arm.
That's the first I've
I
heard
smell
of it.
good.
Holy cow. We're learning
And,
something new. That's
this
the
goes-
that's the first I've heard of it, honestly.
Bobby should have fucked with us and said, like, smell your friend. Oh, no, smell my shirt.
Oh man. Inside
it's not
joke.
gay
Inside
if it's
joke.
your buddy.
Oh,
We were shooting
man.
this thing. This one guy, we were interviewing some guy and we just went into some random dude's house, and this guy was, and he was gay in the gayest way possible, and hilarious and funny and over the top. I mean, it was like show tunes level. Because I have some friends that are gay that like you would never know that they're gay. Like they're actually very manly. They don't have any kind of anything going on. And this guy was like, we'll just hang out and give each other's blow jobs, but it's not gay if it's your buddy. It's called a bro job. And we just thought that was hilarious. And we're like, no, that's still gay. But
So did you guys hang out or?
well, you do it blind and it's fine.
Blind tasting.
That was a yes. That was a yes or no question. That was a yes or no question, by the
Well, I
way.
was talking about being on the receiving end blind. I don't know about I think, yeah, dick in your mouth with your eyes
Gotcha.
closed is still a dick in your mouth.
Yeah. I think we're in agreement on that. All right, so we've cleaned the glass because we're getting ready to pour bottle D.
And sometimes, sometimes we save a lot. Like we put something really special in the lineup the glass, but sometimes it's also we're ramping up in proof.
Yeah.
So the fact that we didn't have a choice but to put this one in D because we had a 100, a 92, 100, and now this is 120 something, right? So if you put that early, or it'll derail the tasting, it'll kind of step on one of the other whiskeys.
So yeah, I guess that was one of my questions too. I'm assuming that generally for people like us that are going to drink all of them now, you put generally the higher proofs are going to be last because you don't want to overpower your palate or anything like that.
Yeah, that's the most common thing that you're going to do. But I mean, we've had a bunch of what we call cast strength killers, where it's all bangers and everything's cast strength. And what we tell people is that, look, try it neat first, just to get a sense for it. Even if you're just getting a little bit in your palate, even if you're just wetting the inside of your mouth with it. And if you're going to put an ice in it, that's fine. I always say if you're going to do ice, do 1 cube, ideally circular, in a tumbler,
Yeah.
in a low ball glass. It's going to have less surface area. It's going to melt. And the thing about the water, what pros do is they have droppers and they have mineral water. And I don't get into that, but you don't want to put too much water in because you can't unproof the whiskey.
Right.
But cast strength was never like, let's all be tough and be men and let's put hair on our chest. And it was never about that. Cast strength was always you proof it down to your liking. So if something's really hot, you'll not only will the water like actually make it more palatable if it's too hot for you, but it opens up the flavors. So for like this last one, try it hot, right? But and don't even like use your bottle to pour it. What I would do is pour a little water into your cap and then just let a couple drops in,
Okay.
and you'll see this will explode in flavor.
Okay. So here we go.
You're telling us to do that.
So first, neat, as is, as God intended.
Oh, nice.
You can tell there's more heat, but again,
It evaporated.
it's so smooth.
Yeah.
It's so smooth. It's still sweet, in my opinion. You get a little heat there, but nothing too crazy. Sweet flavor. I'm getting like back to that caramel. Not toffee, but more of a caramel flavor.
It's
That's
like
good.
spicy caramel. It's hot on the nose, at least. It smells amazing.
I'm going to go ahead and take my bottle here and try and pour a little bit.
And then the cap.
A little bit. We're doing a little different experience here. Just a couple drops.
No, that was perfect right there.
Yeah, we've done a few tastings before, especially with like the Scotch guys. I think not Macallan, they haven't done that, but like maybe Glenfiddich or something. We're at the cigar bar. They'll have the water droppers that you get, and they'll say like, okay, for the second pour, the third pour, try it with a couple drops of water and see what happens. Let's see here. Bringing out for me,
I don't know.
it got even sweeter, in my opinion. The heat is still there. It didn't really diminish heat or anything. It's very similar, but I'm getting more of a sweet note off of it. That's very good.
And so since I think this is just this is one of these killer bottles. This is a bottle that I think we sell for $60. I mean, to get a cask strength rye that I think this might even be 6 years, just to get killer age statement, cask strength rye, really good distillate. I don't know any other way that you could literally buy something at that level. But this is a brand that, I mean, if they would have told me that, we had to sell this, let's say we got this wholesale for a certain amount, so we had to sell it for 90, I think people would buy it. I think it's that good. I think it's a phenomenal bottle and really popular. We got another 5 cases of this, I think, coming in tomorrow.
So I will say real quick, this is something I picked up on for the past almost hour that we've been doing this. Your pricing is phenomenal because you're giving us comparisons here, retail versus what you guys offer it for. So having the tasting, the quarterly tasting, and having the access to the pricing on these bottles is great. Because you've given us a few examples here, $230 versus like when you sell it for $150, stuff like that. There's a great margin here that you guys are able to kind of negate and sell it for at a good price.
Yeah, I mean, bottle sales are not a part of our bottom line in the sense of like we don't lose money when we sell bottles, but we really don't make money, and we do it indirectly in that we keep everybody happy, right? And then people stay with us. So we had a bottle in the lineup. Have you ever seen It's a bottle called Doc Holiday.
Yeah, actually,
like
so we did a partnership with Doc Holiday, I think last year.
Oh, nice. So with who are you dealing with, Alex?
No, so we dealt with a third party company. So I mean, Alex, I might have talked to Alex indirectly or through Instagram or something. Is Alex, higher up there? in the
Yeah, he's
company?
one of the partners. There's 2 guys, and one guy's more of a blender. And that guy, he sounds like he sounds like Malkovich in Rounders. Well, he's like, he beat me straight up, pay the man his money. He's got this like Russian Ukrainian thing going on, and they're sourcing and finding really killer barrels and doing some blends. And like there's a thing called Buff Turkey out there. They got one of the 15-year Buff Turkeys, and although they can't call it Buff Turkey, but it's this distillate that's really phenomenal. So the Doc Holiday bottle, it's really cool. It says "I'm your Huckleberry" on it from Tombstone, and it's got like a cow like metal thing, which I always thought was too much because it just steps on the "I'm your Huckleberry." But the cap has like, it looks like bullet casings in it. It's really cool. It's gimmicky, but it's cool gimmickly and not like gold bar whiskey, stupid gimmicky. And the 10-year Doc Holiday, when you find it, it's always good whiskey. But when they sent me the 10-year, so they sent me the 6-year, and I was like, did you guys make this? And they're like, no, it's MGP. And I went, okay. I'm like, well, we can't do that. And they said, well, can we send you the 10-year? And I went, okay. And they sent me the 10-year, and I'm like, what the fuck is this? I'm like, is this 10-year MGP? And they went, no, it's these barrels we found in Texas. And I went, okay, keep going. And basically there was this guy named Carlos Lavelle. The Lavelle family for about 5 generations made whiskey illegally in Georgia, and they would bounce around to the Appalachians. They would evade the feds. I mean, all over the place. And see, when people start making whiskey, they're not always good at it, right? And sometimes they never get good at it. The ones that apprentice come from a brewing background, or they apprentice with another distiller, or they even come from a wine background, so they really understand the wood influence on the spirit itself. Um, but this guy was making whiskey since he was like 7 years old. You know what I mean? And so when he was in his 70s, his daughter convinced him to go legitimate, and he started this Ivy Mountain Distillery in Georgia. And he was really mainly making this this sour mash moonshine bourbon. And it was so good. The distillate was so good, unaged, people bought it like crazy. But then he was aging some of it about 6 months. And about 3 years in, he died. And the barrels that were only going to be aged 6 months sat there for about 5 years. And the family, ended up offloading all the barrels, for probably, pennies on the dollar, maybe dimes on the dollar. Bardstown bought a bunch of it. They knew the legend of this guy. They put it into their Explorer series, charged $130 a bottle for it. Art of Alchemy took some Jim Rutledge barrels they did with Castle and Key and blended that, and sold that for a bunch of money. The rest ended up in Texas. These guys found it. They brought it back. And I said, okay, if we're going to put this in our blind, then we need to tell this guy's story and a neck tag on the bottle. It's important because his legacy's in this bottle. And when I put in a blind for my guys, one of my guys, so I'll fuck with them. Like, one of my guys loves Four Roses, the other guy loves Wild Turkey, and I'll put like the best of. I'll put a Four Roses limited edition, or I'll put like a Master's Keep Wild Turkey in it, just to see if he gives it a B minus. I'm like, oh, you hate the thing you love. What does that feel like? And
I love it.
and one of the guys was like, are you fucking with us, Bobby? I went, what? He's like, did you put William LaRue Weller in one of these blinds? Because it was, and if anyone doesn't know, that's part of the Stitzel Weller line. It's a Buffalo Trace antique collection. It's a $1,500 bottle. It's a cask strength. It's deep. It's rich. It's phenomenal. Do you want to pay $1,500? Probably not. And I said, no, this could be in the lineup. And once again, this was I think a $200 bottle that our members got for $125. And we basically sold it out of existence except for 2 barrels. And I called Alex and I said, hey, we're going to keep selling this, but I'm a little worried. I'm like, can you just take 2 barrels and hold them and get them 12 year? And then when they hit 12 year, we'll just buy them all and we'll let our members get it for crazy pricing. And he said, yeah. So it just hit 12 year. And so there's never been a Doc Holiday 12 year. They have to make a whole new label for it. And I'm trying to get it at a really good price for everybody, but it's the last in existence. So we're calling it the last barrel, the last of the lost barrels.
That's awesome.
And it's just off the charts. Like, if you pour it blind for anybody, I mean, it'll smoke any pappy. It'll smoke any high-end unicorn bottle that you can imagine in a blind. It destroys it. It's so good.
No, yeah. I mean, and they're making some great whiskey. I mean, the bottle that we had was fantastic. This right here, Bottle D, which we're going to find out here soon, is very good. And I will say real quick before we get into it, in terms of the cigar, and I'm shocked by this, but it actually brought back the spice on my cigar. So the cigar is more spicy. I'm getting more of that full body, full strength kind of experience. Granted, I'm towards the end of the cigar, so that might have
Purge it.
good point, actually. What we learned too these past few months is when you purge a cigar, which is essentially blowing through the cigar for like 5 to 10 seconds, it kind of rejuvenates the cigar. It brings it back to its original form. So that's kind of like a quick tip for.
Does that work?
Cigar smoke. It does too. Yeah. Halfway through a cigar, you purge it, you blow like through the cigar 5 to 10 seconds, and then you take a puff. It tastes like you just lit up a fresh cigar.
Do you think a draw, like, when you let your cigar sit for a little too long and so it's still lit but not lit, so you got to like give it some really good puffs to get it back up? Do you think doing a blow on it and a draw, or just doing a draw is better to kind of?
So what I do in that case, which is, I put my cigar down, I kind of forget about it for a few minutes. I will blow. I've always done this too. I blow through the cigar to get it lit. I didn't realize that
You're purging.
Yeah, it changes the flavor. So yeah, I would recommend for sure blowing through the cigar, because too, you're getting some of that tar out. You're getting that like ash buildup out.
Yeah.
If you're relighting a cigar, especially. So yeah, whether you're halfway through a cigar or whether you're relighting it, blow some of that smoke out of the cigar, and then taking a puff will make it essentially taste like you're lighting it for the first time.
Yeah, and if you do it for your buddy's cigar, it's a bro job.
And if they're your buddies, it's okay, right?
It's buddies. It's not a big deal. It's fine.
Stay away.
But no, that's cool. I've never thought about blowing. I mean, I'm always I'm not a cigar expert, but I'm always looking for a natural draw. And it's interesting. There's nothing worse than this is a great comparison. You buy a nice bottle of whiskey that you heard is great because your buddy liked it and it was expensive, and then you don't like it, right? And you ever get a cigar that you can't even take a draw from it.
Yeah.
Like it's so tight. And I'm like, what the fuck? I just paid like $25 for this fucking cigar that I can't even puff on. And that just pisses me off.
Is that $25 California prices or?
Dude, California prices is funny because somebody was like, why don't you do cigar pairings? I'm like, because if you're going to have a cigar company, this is the one state that you do not want to be in.
Right, exactly.
Arizona, you want to be in Arizona or Florida or like I think Brian DeSign, Pravada.
Yeah.
I think he's out of Florida. We've talked to him a couple of times.
Yeah, he's out of. I think he's still in Orlando.
One of the best cigars I've ever had actually was in a Pravada kit. It was the no label cigar, and there was no label on it. It was just this. And man, I bought another 8 of them at $25 a stick, and then I couldn't get them anymore. And I was like, fuck, I should have bought like 20 of them because they were just whatever that was. They were perfect for my palate. The draw was always perfect. It wasn't too bold for somebody that's not smoking cigars all the time. But what I do when I have a really dope cigar, and like I got a bunch of like the God's Breath Opus X, I got a bunch of those at my house. I share them, like, and that's the same thing with great whiskey. When you have great whiskey, there's people that have museums at their house and they have all these fucking rare bottles and they're all fucking unopened. And it's like, what the fuck are you doing? Like, I got a Pappy 23 up there. I opened it the day I got it. You know what I mean? And I poured it for my buddy that gave me the tip. We sent some out to some members actually so that they could try a Pappy when they've never had a Pappy. Great whiskey is meant to be shared. I think the same is true for cigars. You get some good smoke and you get a buddy that will appreciate it, right? There's nothing better than sharing something really cool with somebody like that.
No, absolutely. Cigars, whiskey, regardless. So fill us in. Bottle D. What are we drinking? So
this is out of Kansas. So the other one's out of Kansas City, Missouri. The sample B one. This sample C, by the way, was a bourbon, but it was High Wire. They're out of South Carolina. What I didn't tell you about C was they rebirthed like a varietal of corn that there was only 2 years of corn left.
Okay.
And they basically that varietal of corn only exists in their whiskey, and that's kind of why you get a really cool, unique nose and aroma on that. So this is out of Kansas. This is Union Horse, and Union Horse. This is a rye. It's a cast strength rye. I think it's 5 or 6 years. I don't have every stat remembered about every whiskey that's ever been in our line.
Of course, yeah. But you got your rye.
This is 6 years old. It's 100% Midwest grain grown rye, and it was founded by some siblings that got some help from Dave Pickerel. Dave Pickerel's kind of like the Johnny Appleseed of the whiskey industry, where he took his acumen and he shared it with all these up and coming brands. And he passed away, I think, about a year ago. But he was somebody that really shared his wealth of knowledge, like Nancy Fraley, who's really known for her palates, also really well known in the industry, and sharing her expertise with people. It's probably one of the rarest industries in the sense that, if I'm traveling through Texas, like we did a couple years ago, and just visiting a bunch of distilleries that we've been talking to or that we want to talk to, they'll be like, "Where have you been?" I'm like, "Oh, we were over at Iron Root. We love those guys," and they're competing against them, right? But they're quietly rooting for other Texas whiskey. It's one of these few things where, you'll mention a brand and they go, "Oh yeah, those guys." No, they go, "Oh, those guys are cool. We love those guys. We see them at things and shows." And there's not a lot of industry. The wine industry is not like that.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Well, I will say too, the cigar industry is like that. I mean, all these guys that are out of the Dominican Republic or Nicaragua, they're all friends and they're all competitors, but they're all friends and they're all cool with each other. And they all go to the same events. Like Pro Cigar and the DR just happened in February. All those guys are there together. Toro Fuente, LFD, like all those guys are there hanging out, having a good time. And it's the same, like you said, with the whiskey industry. It's like these are two great industries in terms of relationships. And there's no like hard feelings like, oh, you're a competitor of mine. No, like we're all friends here. We're all trying to make great products. And there's enough room and then enough to go around, so to say.
Right. 100%, and we love that when there's that synergy in the industry and everyone's just rooting for everybody. Because look, I mean, there's only so much whiskey to go around, but if somebody likes this brand and you can turn them on to another brand, and so like we don't say that anyone in the lineup is competing against each other, right? That everybody like, hey, you like what you like. This isn't a competition. This isn't. I mean, I know who won mainly because like I know who sold the most bottles,
Right. Yeah, but outside of that, I mean, same with cigars. We're not going to smoke the same cigar every day. We're not going to drink the same whiskey every day.
Right.
It's best to have these different great options and be able to enjoy a different cigar and a different whiskey, every day or every week or whatever. I think that's what's great about these two industries. And I think that's part of the reason why they go so well together. I mean, in terms of pairing and the experience, but also the relationships. I mean, you go to a cigar bar or a nice whiskey bar and you just get along with everyone because we're all here to chill, hang out, relax, kind of what we're doing right now. And at the end of the day, that's the most important part.
100%. It's about getting together, sharing time. And when you're sitting there and you're having a pour with somebody and you're having something that's really special, that's at the end of the day what it's all about.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Jared, how'd you enjoy our little tasting tonight?
This is so much fun. I'm glad it was only two of us because how are we going to split all this between all four of us?
I know if there's 4 people here in the studio,
it'd be really difficult.
We'd be getting one sip. Wouldn't be able to taste it.
We should have got 2 boxes to make this a little longer.
I will say, at the end of the day, I enjoyed it very much.
Thank you so much.
And we also learned quite a bit. We learned that in between whiskeys, smell yourself. That's a new thing that I didn't even know about. But Bobby, I want to thank you so much for joining us here on the podcast. We had a great time. I appreciate you for hooking us up with some whiskey here. I think that we're going to end up buying at least 1 or 2 of these bottles here from you guys because they were so good.
I'm happy to hook you up. And if you do it, what I'll do is I'll add your email as a active member.
Oh, thank you so much. I appreciate that.
You can get the discounts. Like I said, look out. Bobby's Stash is coming out.
Yeah.
Monday, and we're gonna have some high rye, burr rye. We're gonna have Midwest. We're gonna have some Hakushu, like 12-year. We're gonna have just some banger allocated bottles.
Amazing. All of you guys watching, definitely check out Blind Barrels here. We had a great time, great experience. All of these whiskeys were fantastic, and I imagine that this next quarter and all the quarters coming out, all the past quarters have been fantastic and will be fantastic. So definitely check these guys out. Again, Bobby, thank you so much for joining us. We're going to wrap it up here. Thank you guys for tuning in to the Cigar Guys podcast. Until next week, take care. See you, Bobby.
Thanks, guys.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of the Cigar Guys podcast. Make sure you subscribe and hit that notification bell so you can stay up to date with all the latest episodes. Looking for short form content? Check out all our social media accounts in the description below. And now, a final word from our sponsors.
What if every cigar was considered vintage? What if every cigar that we made was that perfect experience? And so that passion drove us to create Sans Pareil, a cigar without equal. The inspiration between Sans Pareil is 100% all about quality. Everything that we enjoy in our cigars, everything from the tasting notes to the burn, to the aroma, to the way the cigar lights, to the packaging, everything is focused on Sans Pareil cigars. And that's where we came up with our name, Sans Pareil, which is French for without equal, unparalleled. And we take every cigar that we make to that level, making sure that if it isn't something that inspires you to do something more, then it's not part of the portfolio, and that's what drives us every day.